Welcome to HFY Stories. Please subscribe to the channel. Your one click means the world to me. Sexather's right fist cut through empty air hard enough to make the mat sensors chirp. A human hand struck the side of his knee before his foot had finished planting, and half his leg went numb. The class stopped breathing. Sexather heard the silence more clearly than the impact. 60 students had been talking, shuffling, sparring, laughing. Now there was only the soft hum of the neural dampeners and his own claws scraping for balance. The human across from him had not even changed expression. Less than a minute earlier, he had been certain the match would embarrass her. That certainty had taken 6 months to build. Humans had been arriving at the Interstellar Combat Academy for 5 years, after arguments in the Galactic Council and incidents the instructors refused to explain. Most species at Vex Prime arrived with obvious biological advantages: armor, venom, speed, or crushing strength. Humans arrived with skin. Sexather found this hilarious. He was Crithian, born under crushing gravity, armored in crystalline scales, and strong enough to throw much heavier opponents. He had won often enough that defeat felt theoretical. So when he saw Mira Chen on the far side of combat fundamentals, he made sure his friends could hear him. "They sent another soft one," he said. "What exactly is she supposed to fight with?" The students around him clicked and rumbled with amusement. Someone mentioned a human who had cried during endurance drills. Sexather remembered the tears, not that the runner had finished. Across the room, Mira adjusted the fastening at one wrist and looked in his direction once. That was all. Instructor Vexar stood at the edge of the floor, 4 massive arms folded across a scarred torso. He reminded the class that the neural inhibitors would reduce dangerous force without removing discomfort. "You may discover the difference personally," he added. "I recommend learning it only once." The pairings appeared on his datapad. Sexather saw his name beside Mira's. He stepped forward smiling. Mira gave the formal bow. He returned it with just enough delay to make the insult clear. "This should not take long," he told her. She said nothing. Vexar activated the match. Sexather opened with testing strikes. Mira avoided 2, caught one on her guard, and retreated. Exactly as expected. He pressed harder. She yielded space again, moving backward beneath his reach. His confidence returned in full. Then her knuckles touched 3 precise places along his leg. Pain flashed upward. His knee weakened. That was the moment the room went silent. Sexather reset his stance, more offended than worried. "A fortunate touch," he said. Mira's eyes flicked to his feet. He attacked harder. She gave ground until he believed he had forced her into survival. The other students leaned closer. His friends began making noise again. He reached for her braid. In Crithian combat, controlling the head announced dominance. Sexather intended to pull her offline and finish the exchange cleanly. His hand closed around her hair. Mira went with the pull. Instead of fighting his strength, she accelerated into it. 2 fingers drove toward the exposed junction beneath his throat. The inhibitors prevented catastrophic injury, but a burst of neural feedback ran through his body so violently that all 4 limbs lost agreement about what to do next. Before he recovered, she turned under his grip. His damaged knee folded. The floor rose toward him. He landed flat, breath bursting from his lungs. Mira came down with him, pinning his center while keeping her weight where his strength could not easily move it. "You grabbed the braid," she said quietly. "Bad choice." Sexather tried to throw her. She shifted. He tried again. Something touched a nerve behind his jaw, and white sparks filled his vision. She released him and stood. Humiliation dragged him upright faster than good judgment. He charged. Later, he would remember that charge more clearly than anything else, because it was the instant he stopped fighting like a trained warrior and started fighting like an insulted animal. Mira stepped toward him. Too close. His reach became useless. Her hands struck gaps his scales did not cover. One blow disrupted his shoulder. Another made his leg fail. A third landed along the ribs where Crithian anatomy protected less than Crithian pride liked to admit. He swung and clipped her shoulder. She turned with the impact. Her elbow met the side of his head. The dampeners prevented serious injury. They did nothing for pain, failed balance, or the realization that she had chosen her targets before the match began. Sexether dropped to one knee. Mira stood above him and touched the end of her braid, as if checking a damaged piece of equipment. "I spent time fixing this," she said. "You made that my problem." She hooked a palm behind his skull. His balance was already gone. The mat met his face. "Enough," Vexar thundered. Sexether stayed where he was. Medical drones moved in around him. Diagnostic displays insisted he had no severe injury. His body strongly disagreed. Mira walked away, collected her water, and sat against the wall. No celebration. No victory pose. That somehow made it worse. When Sexether could stand, he looked across the room at her. "How did you do that?" he asked. "The inhibitors were active." Mira lowered the bottle. "They limit injury. They do not erase leverage, nerve response, or bad decisions." Vexar gave a low, booming laugh. "Remember that sentence," he told the class, "especially the last part." Then he looked at Mira. "Where did you learn Crithian weak points?" "The Anatomy Archive." Sexether stared. Mira added it was not restricted. For the first time that day, Vexar looked genuinely concerned. 3 days passed before Sexether returned to full training. By then the story had mutated across the station. One version made Mira blindfolded, another gave her only one arm. Sexether hated them because the truth needed no exaggeration. He had entered stronger, heavier, armored, and certain. He had still lost. When he passed Mira outside the training hall, he stopped. Old instinct told him to ignore her. A newer instinct, one he had acquired face first against reinforced flooring, told him arrogance had already charged enough tuition. He gave the Crithian acknowledgement reserved for a proven fighter. Mira returned it and kept walking. That small exchange changed what followed. Sexether started listening in class. He studied leverage, redirection, and what each drill was designed to expose. His friends noticed. Then they started doing the same. The humans noticed the shift too. Questions about their methods replaced jokes. Marcus Rivera found Mira after one session and asked whether she had truly memorized the anatomy of every species at the academy. "Not every species," she said. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Only the ones likely to cause trouble." "How many does that leave?" Mira looked across the hall. "Enough." 6 weeks after the first match, Vexar placed the same 2 names together again. This time, Sexether bowed first. No laughter followed. The class formed a loose ring around the mat. Vexar activated the inhibitors. Sexether did not rush. He circled. Mira shifted with him. He tested her guard, withdrew, changed angle, and waited for the counter he knew would come. For the first time, he saw her adjust. Not retreat. Adjust. The realization hit harder than the first match had. She had needed very little from him before. Now she had to think. Sexether felt something unexpected. Pride. Not because he was winning. Because he had become worth solving. They traded positions across the mat. He used his strength to close routes instead of merely forcing contact. Mira attacked his joints, but he protected the openings she had used before. He nearly trapped her once. She slipped free. He caught her balance another time, and she recovered before he could convert it. The class reacted to every exchange. No mockery. No cheering for a humiliation. They were watching technique. Near the end, Sexether committed to a controlled grapple. Mira let him believe he had the angle, shifted underneath his center, and caught one arm in a lock. Pressure built. The inhibitors reduced the danger. They did not make the position pleasant. Sexether tapped the mat. Vexar ended the match. Mira released him immediately and offered her hand. He took it. "You were harder this time," she said. Sexether rose, rolling his shoulder. "I tried thinking before charging. And it hurts less." A ripple of laughter moved through the room, including from Sexather. Vexar waited until it faded. Then he looked at the watching students. Strength is useful, he said. Speed is useful, armor is useful. But if you arrive convinced those things have already won the fight, you have handed your opponent the first advantage. His gaze shifted to Sexather. Sexather did not look away. After class, Vexar stopped Mira near the door. You altered this group, he told her. They study each other now. Mira glanced toward Sexather, who was discussing foot placement with one of his friends. I mostly wanted him to stop touching my hair. Vexar's mouth pulled into the threatening shape his species used for amusement. Effective teaching can begin from strange motivations. Dinner remained terrible. That evening, Mira sat beside the observation glass with Marcus, pushing gray protein across her tray, while storms turned silently beneath the station. Marcus told her several students had asked whether all humans train like she did. What did you say? That you are ordinary. Mira looked at him. Marcus grinned. And that they should worry about the specialists. She shook her head and returned to her food. When the trays were nearly empty, Mira carried hers to the return slot and headed for her quarters. She had another sparring session coming, this time against a Voronaki. Their 3-second phase shift had been bothering her all afternoon. Inside her room, she opened the Academy file and slowed the phase record until the energy pulse became visible frame by frame. Once, twice. On the third replay, Mira stopped the image just before the body vanished. She leaned toward the screen and began taking notes.